This Dr. Seuss book is called Imagine That, How Dr. Seuss Wrote The Cat in the Hat. Look at all these hats. Remember how Mrs. Dumont told you that Dr. Seuss would wear hats when he was trying to think up a new story? I wonder how he wrote that book. It was 1954. It was a great year to be a kid. There were 5-cent donuts and 1-cent lollipops. Rock and roll had just hit the record shops. Bookstores brimmed with exciting new books like Charlotte's Web and Lord of the Rings. And Horton Hears a Who. "1954 was a great year to be a kid, unless you were trying to learn to read. For some reason, first graders weren't making the leap from reading a few words to reading a whole book. Grown-ups were stumped. What could the problem be? Kids knew the answer. School readers were just plain boring. A famous writer named John Hersey agreed with the kids. He had an idea for solving the problem, and he wrote about it in Life magazine. What kids needed was a beginning reader so exciting that they couldn't stop turning the pages. Who could write a book like that? Only the funniest children's author in the land. Dr. Seuss. Dr. Seuss, we insist. Won't you please write a book that no kid can resist? P.S. Use the words on this no-nonsense list. I bet you can read some of those words. No nonsense. Ted, as he was known to his friends, had already published 9 big picture books. Books like If I Ran the Zoo, and Scrambled Egg Super, and Thidwick the Big-Hearted Moose. They were funny and kids loved them. But could he write and illustrate a first-grade reader? Of course, a short little book like that should only take 1 or 2 weeks. Or so he thought. Each morning after breakfast, Ted went upstairs to his studio. He had a chair and a desk, and a drawing board for drawing, and a typewriter for writing. He also had a closet full of outlandish hats. When he couldn't think of the right words, a suitable hat was sure to help. Writing a beginning reader was not as simple as it seemed. For one thing, Ted liked to invent new words for his books, like oobleck. You guys know that word, don't you? And itkutch, and yurka, and wumbus, and hippo no hungus, and dippo no dungus. But in this book, he would only be able to use words from the official list. I wonder who gave him that official list. I shall write a rip-roaring book about a queen zebra, Ted declared. He checked the official list. Queen? Nope, not on the list. Zebra? Nope, not on the list. Maybe a book about a bird. I like birds. Bird? Nope, not on the list. No. Ted glared at the list. He spied the word cat and he spied the word hat. Cat rhymes with hat, so I'll just start with that. He reached for his crayons and his colored pencils. I see some things I recognize from that story. Look at even a scared fish. The cat needed a whizzy-bang story. Ted doodled. His stories often began with a doodle. He daydreamed. He tapped at the keys of his typewriter. He donned several hats as he sat in his chair and stared at the list. There's his doodles. That looks like someone we know. In his head, Ted juggled the words on the list. And then he thought, why not let the cat juggle instead? He can juggle the stuff on the list. Yes, he can. He can juggle a rake and a book and a fan. He can juggle a fish, and the fish won't like that. I will draw 2 nice kids to have fun with the cat, 2 naughty things, and a cleaner-upper. I think I'll get started tonight, after supper. Ted pondered how the kids learned to read. He had a hunch that easy rhymes and funny drawings would help them guess the words they didn't know. He used tricks to coax readers to turn the pages. For example, he would put the word bump in huge letters at the top right of page 5. What made that bump sound? The kids had to turn the page to find out. Ted drew. He redrew. He wrote. He revised. It took him more than a year until he was satisfied that the book was funny enough and exciting enough and all around stupendous enough for kids learning to read. Look at those big keys and all of his ideas. Looks like a thing 1 or a thing 2. Look at the fish. All those ideas. Ted delivered the manuscript to his publishers in New York. They loved it. Soon, huge sheets of paper rolled off giant printing presses. Workers used special machines to fold the paper, to cut it into pages, to sew the pages together, and sandwich each book between 2 covers. They loaded the books into trucks, and the trucks rumbled away to libraries, bookstores, and schools. There they go. It didn't take long for news to spread from kid to kid, from coast to coast. There was a new book, an easy book, a book that was so much fun you just couldn't stop reading it. Everyone had to have a copy of The Cat in the Hat. Ted traveled to Boston, New York, and Chicago to meet kids, to sign their books, to give autographs. The first grade reader was a smashing success. He had done it. He had created a fantastic book using only 236 different words. But the great Dr. Seuss didn't stop there. No, he wrote a sequel. A sequel means that it's the next book in the series. He wrote a sequel. The Cat in the Hat Comes Back. And he started to publish more books for kids who were beginning to read. Here's his next book, the sequel. The Cat in the Hat Comes Back. Have you guys ever read that book? Or maybe you've read some of these. I know some of these books. This was Mr. Mandeville's favorite book when he was a little boy. I wonder what book this one is. Does that look familiar to you? Do you have that in Mrs. Dumont's classroom? One day, Ted's friend Bennett Cerf proposed the ultimate challenge. He bet that Ted couldn't write a beginning reader using only 50 different words. Could he? Would he? Boys and girls, do you know what book that is? Do you remember when Mrs. Dumont told you? Yes, in fact, he could do it here or there. He could do it anywhere. With the help of a clever young fellow named Sam I Am and a whooping big serving of green eggs and ham. Imagine that. These are writing and illustrating tips from Dr. Seuss. That's the real Dr. Seuss right there. And he says, number 1, set yourself a challenging goal. So make it so that it's not really easy. It's something that we'll really have to work at. Number 2, draw on your strengths, something that you already know about. Number 3, stir up ideas by doodling. Remember how the story said that he started his ideas by drawing some of those pictures? To doodle means to just draw little things and see if you can come up with a story. Number 4, recycle, recycle, recycle. So if you don't use an idea one time, maybe you can use it in the next story. Number 5, revise, revise, revise. That means you change your story after you write it the first time and you make it better and better and better. I hope you enjoyed this story. I learned a lot about Dr. Seuss just reading it to you. Have a great day.